see here. Super. We are live on YouTube as well. Facebook and YouTube are up. And one more thing on our live page so that everyone can tune in over there as well. And we will be ready to go. Just a moment. Okay, dokie. So this is good. And we're nearly ready to continue. If you have any questions in advance, you can shoot them in the comment section below. And nearly finished here. Just small technical tweaks and we will be going live. All right, so yes, the live page should be up and running with all the content. Fantastic, it is. So, now, welcome everyone. And today we gathered here to discuss a very important topic of emotional intelligence. Thank you for joining. And I'm your host, Alan Late. And this webinar will be structured in a form of a seminar where I will introduce you to the topic of emotional intelligence, cover the models that brought emotional intelligence to us, and as well as introduce a lot of interesting facts about how our mind works. And then we'll tell you how can we work on emotional intelligence within our companies, within our teams, and so on. Right, so let's get the presentation up and running. Super. So, emotional intelligence. As many of you can relate, when we were growing up, at home, in school, in university, with our friends, the main notions that defined us, that were around us, were that your feelings didn't really matter. There was always the really strong word must, that everything in your life depends on either you must do it or you don't need to do it, which really led to a lot of wrong choices later in life. That your thoughts weren't important, and if they were only important when they are in line with what adults thought was right. As well as self-expression was limited to the degree that our surrounding perceived its relevance and it being so-called right. So many years later, inside, we're still the same children. The same children who weren't taught how to work with their emotions, how to express themselves in their unique way. Depending on the environment, our competence to voice what we truly have inside was defined. We were never really taught about listening to and understanding our feelings and emotions. And no one really told us how to voice our opinions in the right way. So that you can be in peace with yourself, knowing that your surrounding understands and hears what you really think and feel. As well as never deeply touch the topic of unique self-expression. So today, we will get introduced to the topic of emotional intelligence, how it affects our lives, and we will touch it from the perspective of the leader. Who is this webinar for? This webinar is specifically for leaders who are people-centric, who understand that to succeed in business, the people who work, who do the work, are the people who are the second most important asset besides your clients. Leaders who acknowledge that employees are individuals and not machines and therefore deserve individual approach. Leaders who acknowledge that a successful team is like a watch, where each part fits its place, serves its purpose, and understands its contribution. Leaders who acknowledge that employee well-being directly impacts the bottom line and business growth. As well as leaders who consciously or unconsciously follow the Peter Principle, that every individual has their own competencies and cannot fulfill everything you throw at them with the same level of competence. You may see such things in terms of Peter Principle, where a really good salesperson or a really good, office worker gets a rise in the ranks to become a manager and lead people. But he lacks the competence, he lacks the people skills to be a leader. But he's a really great salesman, for example. So Peter Principle really looks at that aspect of life. Now moving on, let's talk about hard skills versus soft skills. We all know hard skills. Hard skills are something that is teachable. These are the abilities that we can define and we can measure, such as typing, writing, math, reading, and generally the ability to use computer software and so on. Whereas soft skills are less tangible and harder to quantify. Soft skills are considered character traits and interpersonal skills that characterize a person's relationships with other people, such as etiquette, getting along with others, listening, and engaging in small talk. And sociologists may use the term soft skills to describe emotional intelligence qualitative, as opposed to IQ that we all hear about all the time. So the topic of emotional intelligence has a foundation of two main models. The main model is the PUM model that was developed by Peter Soloway and John Myers, the PUM model of emotional intelligence. And then Daniel Goleman popularized the concept of emotional intelligence by writing a book on it and presenting 5 components of emotional intelligence. So the PUM model looks at 4 things. One is perception of emotions, secondly, use of emotions, then understanding of emotions, and finally, managing emotions. Whereas Daniel Goleman, in his 5 components of emotional intelligence, described them as self-management, motivation, empathy and compassion, social skills, and self-awareness. So let's dig into the PUM model. So as we mentioned, it has 4 major skills in it: perception, use, understanding, and managing emotions. And Soloway and Meyer really viewed the role of emotions in a way that, rather than getting in the way of clear thinking, and rather than getting in the way of behaving in a way that you want to, they actually help you to think clearer and behave the way you want to behave. They say that we evolved an emotional system that is intelligent and provides information, and that actually, if you pay attention to it, can be useful and adaptive as you work, with your family, in social life, and particularly in leadership. This emotional system helps you to think clearly, solve problems, communicate, deal with social relationships, and deal with work, family, and friends. And the PUM model calls this system emotional intelligence, and views emotional intelligence as mental ability that can be developed. The 4 skills, as we mentioned, let's dig in and have a look at 4 of them individually and what they mean. So firstly, we have the perception of emotions. Perception of emotions is the ability to perceive and identify own emotions accurately in yourself and in other people. And it involves expression of emotions accurately when desired, perception of emotions in others, such as vocal cues, facial expressions, language, and behavior, and identifying emotions in your own physical states, feelings, and thoughts. Second skill is the use of emotions. It is the ability to use your emotions as a source of information in problem solving, in creativity, social situations, resolving conflict, to negotiate, and to behave in a way you would like to behave. For example, if we look at creativity, many artists use their emotions to create masterpieces that really express what they're feeling inside towards the topic that they're trying to put on the canvas. If we look at social situations, your emotions can really help you to get other people on board with what you're trying to achieve. Because when you're emotional about the topic that you work with, for example, when you're presenting, if you have emotions within the core foundation of what you're trying to present, people will be attuning to you, feeling what you're saying. And this is another use of emotions. The third skill is understanding emotions. And this is the ability to understand emotions and use language to describe them. And this involves understanding what the person might feel in the future or under certain situations, differentiate between moods and emotions, and label emotions and recognize relationships among them. And the fourth skill is managing emotions. And when we talk about managing emotions, the main idea here is to regulate your emotions to build conscious responses to the environment around you. And managing emotions involves staying open to unpleasant and pleasant feelings as needed to convey the information that they have inside them. And the idea here is really important because the majority of time we try to escape our unpleasant emotions rather than really hear what those signals really mean, what those emotions really try to tell us. Responding appropriately to emotion of others, being able to respond rather than react, effectively manage others' emotions to achieve a desired outcome, and effectively manage one's own emotions to achieve a desired outcome. Although emotional intelligence consists of 4 things, at a given moment, we are not always capable of being at 100% in all 4 skills. and therefore we have a profile of strengths and growth zones at all time. The PUN model, when it was conducted, had plenty of researchers, and the two major ones showed that scoring high on emotional intelligence actually predicts leadership in the workplace, as well as it showed that having high emotional intelligence, people tend to be more sociable and more positive. They contribute positively to the work environment, tolerate stress better, show leadership potential, have strategic vision, are better communicators. They also provide social support and satisfy the other members of the group. As well as all the researchers really showed that emotional intelligence generally has an impact on the workplace performance. Moving on to the 5 components of emotional intelligence that Daniel Goleman wrote about. First thing is self-regulation, also known as self-discipline. It involves controlling or directing your own disruptive emotions and adapting to changing circumstances. And this is the propensity to suspend judgment and to think before acting. Self-regulation involves self-control, trustworthiness, conscientiousness, adaptability, and innovation. And you can really compare the skill of self-regulation as having a toolset where you have all the needed tools that will help you to really regulate your expression, your emotions, in a way that you want them to be expressed. Motivation, the second aspect of emotional intelligence that Daniel Goleman proposed. And he says that to motivate yourself for any achievement requires clear goals and a positive attitude. Although many of you have predisposition to either a positive or negative attitude, you can, with effort and practice, learn to think more positively. And if you catch negative thoughts as they occur, you can reframe them in a more positive terms, which will help you to achieve your goals. And really, this picture that you see on the slide represents the idea of motivation and positivity. That the word impossible really can be reframed into the understanding of a word, I am possible. Motivation involves such things as achievement drive, commitment, initiative, and optimism. The third aspect of emotional intelligence is empathy and compassion. The ability to recognize how people feel is important to success in your life and career. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand how they feel and react to a certain situation. When one has empathy, the capacity to feel compassion is open. The more we can relate to others, the better we will be at understanding what motivates or upsets them. The more skillful you are at screening the feelings behind others, signals, the better you can control the signals you send them. So the major idea here is that the better you are in seeing what signals your counterpart has in terms of mimicry, in terms of posture, language, tonality, the better you can control your own signals to counterbalance their reactions and build the connection between you two that will help you to achieve the desired outcome. An empathic person excels at those certain 5 things: service orientation, developing others, leveraging diversity, political awareness, and understanding others. As Chris Grios once said that emotional intelligence, in fact, is emotional intimacy. And it is the ability to connect with another person on an intimate level. If we could learn to be a little bit more intimate, then the world would be indeed a whole lot better. And we would become a blessing to each one that we meet, he once said. This is an interesting graph that shows the engagement level between different expressions of connection between people. So if we look at pity, the least engaging is acknowledging that someone is suffering. Just like, well, he's suffering. Sympathy is caring about someone else's suffering. It's showing that, well, you care, but you cannot do anything about it. Empathy is when your level of engagement is a little bit deeper. It's a level where you feel the suffering of the other person. It's where you emotionally connect and support the other. And compassion, the highest level of engagement between people, it is when you try to relieve the other's suffering, when you try to support them not only mentally, not only showing them that you care and you feel what they're feeling, but also you try to assist them to get through it. Fourth component of emotional intelligence is social skills, the proficiency to manage your own emotions, build networks with communication. You must have the ability to communicate effectively and properly manage relationships, because relationships are essential of success in your life and career. In today's always connected world, everyone has immediate access to technological knowledge. And thus, people skills are even more important now, because you must possess high levels of emotional intelligence to better understand, empathize, negotiate with other people in a global community, in a global economy. Social skills involve such things as influence, communication, leadership, being the change catalyst, conflict management, building bonds, collaboration and cooperation, and working with others towards shared goals, and team capabilities. The last component that Goleman wrote about is the ability to recognize emotions as they happen. This is called self-awareness, and it is the key to emotional intelligence. Self-awareness can be defined as having the ability to recognize one's own thoughts, emotions, and actions, and understand their impact on others. Recognize and understand your own moods and motivations. Self-awareness, when we're trying to develop it, it requires to be able to monitor own emotional states and identify own emotions, tuning in to your true feelings. And practice shows if you evaluate your emotions, you can start managing them. Emotional maturity, this trait shows the ability to be emotionally aware, to recognize your own emotions and their effects, realistic self-assessment, self-confidence, which is the sureness about own self-worth and capabilities. And this chart really shows well how it all fits together. At the beginning, we start with recognizing of oneself. Recognizing of oneself is the key idea of self-awareness. It is where we are aware of our emotions, we accurately assess ourselves, and we have self-confidence. And then we start to attune, to recognize what is happening around us, being more socially aware, being able to be empathetic, be able to have organizational awareness, be able to attune to what other people feel. And then we start to regulate ourselves to control how we express ourselves, being more transparent, being more adaptable, taking initiative, developing the life that will express our genuine self. And then with regulation we move to the social part, where we understanding ourselves, understanding our social around us, we start to manage our relationships. And our relationship management is all about building bonds, having an influence, developing others, supporting others, and so forth. So what do these two models have in common? They all talk about the main idea that we have to identify our own emotions in physical states, feelings, and thoughts. Our use conscious thinking to understand and regulate our emotions to form conscious responses rather than reacting to situations. And this leads to the conclusion that self-awareness is the key to emotional intelligence. Why emotional intelligence matters? I found two really nice quotes that suit this purpose. Jim Rohn once said that wherever you do not employ, you forfeit. Wherever you don't use, you lose. And Florence once said that if you do not run your subconscious mind yourself, someone else will run it for you. Think about it. We have to understand how thoughts work in order to create the desired life. Otherwise, someone else will create it for us. Some facts about the subconscious mind that we must know. Firstly, is that our subconscious mind is always on. It records everything it hears, what we say, what we think, and what even we are not consciously aware of. This is really important to understand, that everything that happens around us is being recorded. Everything that we say, even if we think we're joking at that moment, is being recorded. But there's a big but. All those memories are recorded and are stored as mental movies and images. But the biggest but is that all those images, all those memories, all those experiences, they go through a filter of our subconscious mind. It adapts all the content of what is happening around us to its perception of reality. The perception of reality that was formed to keep you safe. But all those models of reality that keep you safe are really old and already served out their purpose, and you have to understand it. We have to also know that repetition creates mastery, and everything we do, say, and think long enough will eventually become part of you, even if it's completely false at the time. You can see this in old people, especially in your grandparents. Grandparents who survived the war usually have certain beliefs about life or about the surrounding or about certain cultures, predispositions that they so intertwined into their existence through constantly saying and thinking about it, that it became part of them, even though it's completely false now. Another fact about the subconscious mind is that any thought allows us to create new neural connections in our brain. The more we have practice, the more connections are made. Therefore, the more automatic thoughts, emotions, and behaviors become. And this is a notion from neuroscience called neuroplasticity. The power of thought what we need to understand is that we are creatures of habit. And once a certain thought finds its way to our subconsciousness, we start to think about it over and over again. And this is why we really get the same reality over and over again. To consciously choose a better life, a better reality, we need to become aware of what the subconscious mind has, what kind of thoughts, emotions, actions, beliefs, and values are stored in us. To reflect upon them, integrate them, and then release the associated negative emotions and the energetic hold they have on us. Only then we will be able to create a lasting change, consciously rewiring our subconsciousness with new thoughts, emotions, actions, beliefs, and values that will help you build the life you want. Now I want to read you a beautiful poem about self-love that Charlie Chaplin read on his 70th birthday. And this poem is called As I Began to Love Myself. As I began to love myself, I found that anguish and emotional suffering are only warning signs that I was living against my own truth. Today, I know this is authenticity. As I began to love myself, I understood how much it can offend somebody as I tried to force my desires on this person, even though I knew at the time was not right and the person was not ready for it, even though this person was me. Today, I call it respect. As I began to love myself, I stopped carving for a different life, and I could see that everything that surrounds me was inviting me to grow. Today, I call it maturity. As I began to love myself, I understood that at any circumstance, I am in the right place at the right time, and everything happens at the exactly right moment, so I could be calm. Today, I call it self-confidence. As I began to love myself, I quit stealing my own time, and I stopped designing huge projects for the future. Today I only do what brings me joy and happiness. Things I love to do and make my heart cheer. And I do them in my own way and in my own rhythm. Today I call it simplicity. As I began to love myself, I freed myself of anything that is no good for my health. Food, people, things, situations, and everything that drew me down and away from myself. At first, I called this attitude healthy egoism. Today, I know it is love of oneself. As I began to love myself, I quit trying to always be right, and ever since I was wrong less of the time. Today I discovered this is modesty. As I began to love myself, I refused to go on living in the past and worry about the future. Now I only live in the moment where everything is happening. Today I live each day, day by day, and I call it fulfillment. As I began to love myself, I recognized that my mind can disturb me, and it can make me sick. But as I connected to my heart, my mind became a valuable ally. Today, I call this connection wisdom of the heart. We no longer need to fear arguments, confrontations, or any kind of problems with ourselves or others. Even stars collide, but out of their crashing, new worlds are born. Today, I know that is life. I love this poem. Every time I read it, it opens up new dimensions. Great. Now let's continue to a highly effective approach to developing our emotional intelligence. For the past 2 years, I've developed a highly effective approach to developing our emotional intelligence. with the use of modern psychology and ancient wisdom to develop what we can call a quantum leap in self-awareness, self-management, motivation, empathy, compassion, and social skills. This approach I called personality profile, which serves as a foundation for the corporate team mastery training. The corporate team mastery training core idea is that all change starts from within. By creating external factors and stimulation for happiness, it will only get us that far. Facilitating lasting internal change of the individual by gifting them the opportunity to build self-awareness and emotional intelligence creates a wholesome echo of growth and change throughout the entire organization on all levels and playing fields. Facilitating growth of self-awareness in each employee in the right way will have a huge impact on their social life, life satisfaction, their people skills, and provides a platform for each team leader to get a deep understanding of their team members on an individual level. The right way is really a gentle topic, which allows the individual to feel safe and at the same time opens up an opportunity to create an intimate connection with the team leader, the team, and life in general, as well as provides information to hold effective developmental sessions with each team member individually, to strengthen communication, to build mutual understanding, provide the ability for the team member to be heard and understood, gives a guidance for individual approach to motivation, as well as facilitate their growth, and much more. As a leader, you also get to build your leadership mastery foundation and find your inner lion. What that means is that you will find your unique leadership style. Know your leadership derailers, shortcomings that you should work on. Reflect on how you react and how you can be perceived. Recognize personal triggers that create obstacles to success. And start gaining control of your reactions and behaviors. Are you ready to take your emotional intelligence to the next level? For more information, go to www.alanlate.com/ctmt. Thank you for listening, guys. Today, this is it for the live webinar. And now, we're moving on to questions and answers. Before we get any questions in, I would like to cover a question that was voiced yesterday, and it touched a question about how does it all work? How does this approach get implemented? And the main idea there is that the work is done individually with each employee on the team. So the team leader, when you have the idea that you would like to build more intimate relationships within your team, be able to approach each team member on an individual level, we get together with your team to discuss who is ready to open up to such opportunity. And it will really depend on each team member individually to express his willingness to participate in this training. Because this training touches a lot of personal issues and really is a personal topic for each individual. Therefore, before conducting this training within your team, we have to talk to each team member to confirm that they are ready to participate. Once we get people on board, first things first are conducting a typing session. This session is specifically crafted to work through 2 personality typing tools, and then use that information to create a unique personality profile document for each individual. Later, after the document is prepared, we have a coaching session together with the individual to present them the personality profile, discuss all the components, and touch deeper a certain topic in their life that they found out from the discussion, and do extra developmental coaching session on that topic at the same time. This will allow the individual to build a foundation of understanding of oneself, how they express themselves, how others perceive them, and get developmental ideas how can they develop their emotional intelligence. Next step is the work with the leader. The work with the leader is divided into two parts. First part is the individual coaching session with the leader, where we do the same process as we did with the individual work team member, but additionally touch the leadership qualities that you have and how can you better develop them and use them in your daily life. And the second part is that we get together and discuss a specifically crafted for you personality profile of your team member, so that you will have an idea what are their strengths, where can their personality be best applied within the team and within the tasks. You will understand how to best motivate them, how to provide feedback effectively, how to manage conflicts, and much more. And next opportunities that you have is, firstly, you can have a one-on-one session with each team member individually to build better connections between you two, having a facilitator with you, which will help you to guide through the most crucial parts of creating an intimate communication between you two, connecting all the dots and creating mutual understanding among you two, to build a really powerful, intimate connection that will increase the productivity, the effectiveness, communication, and much more. And the last part is the team dynamics, where we get together with the whole team that went through the personal part of the training, and we do a bonding session where we go through the most important parts of emotional intelligence, through the most important parts of individual expressions, and together with a invited colleague of mine, we will carry out additional trainings to help all the information that we will discuss better settle in and build understanding, connection, communication between team members on a new level. So that is the process of work with the corporate team mastery training. Another option that you can have is an individual team leader training, where the work will be done only with you, where there will be an individual typing session. You will get your personality profile document, and we'll have a coaching session where we discuss everything that the document contains, as well as work through your leadership profile and how can you improve it in your daily life. So, super. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you found this small seminar on emotional intelligence insightful. Would love to hear your feedback and what you have taken out from the seminar in comments to this video, or you can direct message me. And yes, have wonderful emotional intelligence growth. I will talk to you soon, and for tonight, have a great evening. Bye bye.